Hey everyone, it is Thursday, February 3rd, 2022. This is Prime Talks. This may or may not be the name of a new show that we'll be doing regularly, all about Parallel. Today, I'm going to be joined on this first episode, or maybe the last episode, by DeFi Ted. Ted is a long-term builder in the Web3 space. He's worked on multiple DeFi protocols, been in countless DAOs with me, and Ted has more recently been the co-founder of Paragons, which we're going to talk all about today as well. More importantly, Ted is the one that introduced me to Parallel. And so we're going to talk today, hopefully, about everything you need to know to get caught up on Parallel. There's a lot to dig into. It's been a really exciting new trading card game, or maybe call it a sci-fi franchise that's in development that uses NFTs. And yeah, we're going to help you sort of like sift through all that detail so you can prep for the next pack drop, which is February 26th. So Ted, welcome to Prime Talks. How are you doing?
I'm good, Mr. Dad, DeFi Dad. How are you?
Good. Yeah. I always pretend like we didn't talk for the last 30 minutes and caught up on everything. Yeah, like just in case anyone doesn't know your background, Ted, do you want to share anything more about maybe life before crypto? When did you start working full time in crypto? And then would love to, hone in on, what brought you to Parallel. I don't think I've ever gotten that story from you either. How you happened upon Parallel. So yeah, walk us through.
So, all right. So my background is I have 15 years in the consumer finance markets here in Australia. Before coming into crypto full time. I found crypto in 2017, joined full time mid 2020 with the launch of Cover. Cover was my first foray into working with with a DeFi protocol. In that time, helped build Ruler, and then unfortunately have helped since wind those two protocols up. So I've been through the full, life cycle of a DeFi protocol. I think, as the bear market rolls on, we'll see a few more DeFi protocols maybe go the way of the processes that I laid ground to. But since then, have founded Paragons with a bunch of other like-minded kind of crypto natives as myself. And I've been working on that ever since. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about today. But that's kind of my background journey. So yeah, 15 years finance before coming to crypto, and then DeFi and crypto, or DeFi coming out of crypto, kind of it fell right into my lane.
So you came to me. It was maybe mid or late summer. And I don't even remember how you described it. I just remember being very confused because you were working on so many different ideas in DeFi, and you've always been passionate about just what's the next big idea there. And then I realized you were talking to me not only about NFTs, but it was more so about a trading card game. So I'm very grateful now. It's kind of a lesson to just keep an open mind and always be curious, because that was a big fork in the road for me. I kind of fell down the Parallel rabbit hole with you. How did you learn about Parallel? When did you even first buy a card?
So I was learning about Parallel at the time when Top Shots was taking off at the very start of 2021. And for those that like or hate me, I made a pretty damning post in regards to the practices there, and I was looking for a combination of NFT and gaming experience, and we were very early to the metaverse structure at that point of what was. I mean, that word was very loose at that time, just a year ago. And after a little bit of looking in March, I bought my first card of Parallel, and I bought the Recon SE card. And I was attracted to it by the art is first and foremostly amazing. So if you'd spent any time in that pre-DeFi summer in 2020 through to your winter over there, you would have gone from having a small amount of money to a larger amount of money if you've held any of those DeFi protocol or tokens. And a lot of people I know started venturing into the NFT space, especially with art. Right, art was probably the biggest thing at that time. Nifty Gateway was the thing taking off the most. The Beeples, the one of ones, Fewocious, all that type of stuff was the thing that was being hyped. And it was the art that actually drew me in first. This is the card. Yeah, you're looking right at it.
This is it, right? Yeah. And this is the gosh, I'm trying to think.
This is the first edition, right? This is the
first,
FE.
yeah.
So this is the largest supply version of it, which obviously less scarce, but it's still a 0.65 ETH card, right? Because it's
Right.
one of the very first that was minted. It was in that very first drop. And the and once I bought the card, I just couldn't stop looking at it. Right, I knew that there was a game behind it coming somewhere, but I had no idea about kind of what type of game it was. So the art actually got me involved into doing a bit more research, and I was pleasantly surprised when I started digging deep into who was backing Parallel, who was building it, what their backgrounds were, what their experiences were, and the more I went, the more excited I was. So to give anyone like kind of an elevator pitch as to what Parallel is, it's a trading card game in the same vein as Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone. I guess a good relation for crypto would be Gods Unchained in a way.
Yeah.
And set in a sci-fi type setting that has spent the time to build out a game from a gamer's perspective and a builder's perspective from those backgrounds, and at utilizing the crypto mechanics to add value and experience for the user. And to me, that was the cross section I was looking for. I was looking for a game that was going to add value to the current play, so that I could play the game today without. So the bull case for me was always, can I play the game without crypto? Yes, but would crypto enhance this in the right way? Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's what I want to be on. There's too many games out there that are being built just to utilize the crypto mechanics, and they're just going to go by the wayside. Because to me, that's just another Ponzi-nomic in a different industry, right? So
yeah.
And I think that's what you want. You want the gameplay experience to not be affected by the crypto. And I'll give you an example. Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity's gameplay is now heavily affected by the fact of how much you can earn just by clicking the button. So to me, that's kind of like, that was the find for me. And as the new information came out towards the first pack drop, it was very clear to me that Parallel had positioned themselves and Echelon, who are the business behind this, to try to capture a mass audience, and that it brought the right team in to build it. I made a post not long ago, just in the last couple of days, in regards to my bull case on this, and one of the things I mentioned in there is that crypto builders aren't game builders. So I'm sorry, don't at me.
Yeah. No. That is it's really well said, really well articulated about what is very compelling about Parallel is that it uses Web3, obviously in this case NFTs. It uses it to enhance gameplay, not like let's force a square peg into a round hole. Let's build a game that happens to use NFTs and play to earn mechanics. And it just works. I mean, there is some of the early proof of this is the trading volume on Parallel cards and assets is I'd have to check it as of today, but it normally ranges in I want to say like top 20. It was closing in on like top 10 at one point, and we slowed down a bit after December, but the trading volume, is 24/7. And it just has opened up all this opportunity for really, like what DeFi has done, allowing anyone to be able to exchange value across the world. And it's created, in this case, I would argue it's created some really deep liquidity around these cards and assets. But this is all a part of the bootstrapping phase, because these beautiful cards, which we'll try to like comb through some of the basics of what you need to know versus like there's so much more detail that hasn't been released yet that we don't know about. But these beautiful cards will eventually be used to play the game. And there's a lot there that's in development, and there's quite a bit now you can dig into in terms of the gaming mechanics. But we'll cover a bit of that later here. Anything else to add there, Ted, on just like what enhances Parallel, or what enhances a trading card game in terms of what Parallel has been designing for?
Yeah, right. So I think the key thing here is being rewarded for your time and effort, right, is the key. So that's what the pitch right is now for GameFi, right? Is that, hey, you're going to get rewarded for your time and effort. The same way that, marketers are rewarded for grabbing your time and effort. They get paid, to do so, to grab your attention, to bring it to something else. So you'll get paid for your time and effort put in building those skills. The thing that I like about what they've done is that, firstly, so for those that don't know, there'll be a physical version of these cards, right? So you're going to be able to have a deck that's got low barrier to entry and be able to play this game with your friends, right? And you're going to be able to learn those skills, learn the game, and have it all done without it affecting any of your credit or reputation in the space, right? But then when you're ready, you can bring all that to the online realm, to the digital realm. Right. And then you can start to play against people and earn your reputation, and then start to earn rewards, right? And that, to me, very much reminds me of the poker scene. So poker was a game that was low barrier to entry, play with your friends, learn your craft, you play for matchsticks, whatever you wanted to do. And then you could go online with real money and start to grind your way to an income on a side hustle, or for some people, a full-time income, right? And they were being paid for their time that they were putting in and their skills that were building. And for a lot of those guys, they found crypto during that time. The US went the God-fearing way and said that it was an abomination of God to be gambling that way. So the southern states made quick remedy of that, and they found crypto. And I think this is not too dissimilar from that crossover. We've got a lot of people playing Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone online now, but the underlying play to earn mechanics and the ability to create wealth and grow wealth from it, it's just not there. And Parallel kind of takes those mediums to the next step and will allow people to grow their skills just like they have in those previous fun games, but now get to be rewarded for it on a grander scale. Yeah. And when people say to me, well, why won't they work for a computer game? I just say, well, I haven't seen a computer game that's going to cross over that well just yet, right? So, yeah. But I think gamers from that space will get it. Most of those guys are sponsored. They don't get a huge pay. They play morning, noon, and night to prac, and then their biggest payoff is when they win a tournament. So they go through all of that for like a high risk, high reward. Whereas this grinding process where you can bankroll yourself and grind your way is a much more sustainable model to start off with, but it allows more entrants to be, or a larger participation pool. So I think you'll find a crossover between all those traditional trading card gamers and poker gamers from a strategy point of view that find this space very quickly once it starts to grow.
So I have been, trying to track like why there is such a resentment amongst legacy gamers for NFTs, and I just recently was talking with someone about that, like why they're against NFTs. And so before we just go back to focusing solely on Parallel here, do you think that you can design a blockchain-based, NFT-based play-to-earn game that is both for pleasure, but also like offers the upside, like basically all of the sort of like financial incentives that are being designed in play to earn? Does it have to be one or the other? That's basically been their argument.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be. I think I don't. But see, I'm yet to see a game where I'm convinced that the crypto and NFTs make sense from like a PC game point of view, like a role playing game or a first shooter, or however you want to try and create that game. I know the easy one is to do strategy games like your RuneScapes and your different types of building it civilizations and all that type of stuff. That to me is low hanging fruit, because that's just a strategy game, and that's kind of what a trading card game is, right? But they've just decided to make it a bit more graphic without the same type of move mechanics. The thing though is I haven't seen one that has crossed over yet, but I think that's the winning approach though, is to try and have it as gameplay for fun and lower that barrier to entry to allow more participants, right? But then it does come with this economic reward structure if you choose to want to be, a professional, I guess, from that point of view. I guess it becomes more akin to like a sport, right? So anyone can go play golf. I mean, maybe not anyone, they're expensive, but anyone can go play a sport, for what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But only those that want to really pursue it, right, as a professional, they'll put in the time and effort, and eventually they get contracts to be rewarded for that.
Yeah. I've had a lot of. I clearly lean towards the future is building these Web3 games that do incorporate play to earn, that it provides greater upside and can like reward players versus the way it's set up today. Today there's no opportunity there. You've got to go whore yourself out on Twitch, or figure out whatever endorsements. And I just don't see why it doesn't make sense to be giving this a chance, to see like what happens when you allow players to truly own those in-game assets, in the case of parallel cards, and then be able to decide like for yourself, is it worth continuing to hold on to these to play the game? Do you play the game truly for fun, or does it become, more of a job job that you play it simply just to earn? And I agree. I think that parallel is part of the reason I got so excited. Is first I just got excited about the art, because I just thought it was so it's very difficult to compare the art in parallel. Let me go back to this. It's very difficult to compare art is very subjective, but I feel like it's a very easy thing for anyone to quickly assess that these are remarkable artists who are creating this art. And in a world of open source software where anything can be copy pasted, and a lot of NFT projects can be, not copy pasted, but clearly they inspire like near copy paste of their artwork.
Yeah, right.
This is, to me, is near impossible to fork. And so that combo, that unique combo of, okay, there's beautiful art here with talented artists who are great storytellers, who are not just creating a trading card game, but they're clearly setting us up for like this bigger sort of sci-fi franchise, whether that means, I don't know, like a TV series or whatever TV is in the future. It'll probably all be online. You probably access it through an NFT, or whether it's movies. Like there's just so much storytelling being done here through the cards. But at the end of the day, like the core utility is we're excited for a killer card game, and a killer card game again, where there's going to be outliers, just like there are outliers in everything else. Professional athletes that play golf while, some other sloth plays golf on the weekend and isn't very good at it and doesn't get paid to do it. Why should gamers not be rewarded if they have like a world-class talent at what they do?
Yeah, Exactly. And if there's a demand for it, then it will continue to grow, right? So
Exactly.
I think you'll find that this will, these type of games will continue to grow. I think the trading card space is the right crossover. There was an argument someone mentioned to me on Twitter that maybe it's too saturated, and I agree that the trading card space is saturated, but this enhances the experience, and this is new. So I think this will stand out in that trading card space as well when people start to play it, and potentially when people start to hear the returns that maybe some of these guys are making as well in regards to their gameplay and their strategy. So I'm very excited for what's to come once we get gameplay in place. But I think one of the bull cases for Parallel is the fact that they have 32,500 unique holders of assets before you can play it, right? So you've got this large market buy-in, and I think that just comes with the team that they have, right? The builders that they have from their respective skills and the credits that they bring and the reputation that they bring, and the stuff that Carlos is doing in the crypto space with the strategists that they have there. In my opinion, that this is going to be a model that will be replicated.
Yeah. And, maybe that's a good segue then into, we could talk a little bit more about how the cards have been released. Because again, like we don't know much of the card functionalities yet. Like some of it has been alluded to on Twitter, and so you should definitely follow Parallel on Twitter. They're always leaking all sorts of alpha or just interesting information and mock-ups and new cards and so on. But yeah, we could kind of talk through like PS15 versus PD1, kind of the history of prime keys and some of the other assets, or do you think we should talk a bit about the prime proposal first?
Well, we can talk about maybe some of the cards and stuff, and we can leave the prime proposal before we jump into Paragons, because it's probably going to be a nice segue there in regards to what they're doing versus to what we're doing. So so for the cards, they've been divided up. So it's a slow process, right? So they started this process back in the end of February, if I remember correctly, last year, and that was their PS15 drop. And they've only had 2 drops since, so August and then when was it? Was it October or November?
I think it was October. I know. I
it was October.
Lose track of time.
Yeah.
I think it was October. If it wasn't, it was like the first day of November. I don't know. All I know is I got 000. So I went from the most excited person ever to being like, wow, I'm just gonna watch everybody live the dream.
I was very bummed. But they're releasing the packs into the market based on a number of things. So so far the strategy's kind of been that the higher supply cards have had the least release, except for those cards that have been in a faucet. So what does that mean? So if the rug polar card and the paradigm shift card are 2 cards that you could have just connected at the paradigm, at the prime, at the Parallel website, and just paid the gas to mint. Anyone could have minted it. So it was
that is PS15 what we're talking about. This is the first set of cards that was ever released. Like this is by the way, we're kind of gonna try to prep everyone for just some of the things you need to know for the next pack drop. But in the first pack drop, which is PS15, I wasn't around for this, but they were individually minting cards. Is that what you were saying?
No. There was originally a first drop of cards, but what I'm saying is that there's been 2 subsequent faucets, right? So the rug polar card and the paradigm shift card were separate cards to the actual pack drops, where you could have just connected your wallet, paid the mint, and owned the card, right? So they have that's kind of how they've released a lot of their longer run cards, their longer supply. So in PS15. I do wholeheartedly think that there is a pricing discrepancy between those lower run cards and the high run cards, and the reason is that there's only about 100 or so of all of those first edition cards where there's 50,000 plus of the supply, right? if you use the priming, is probably the best example for what the
Yeah,
supplies
yeah.
are.
That's actually, yeah, let's look at those. So these
Created
are,
by
if
Big
you go to
Int.
the priming.io, I'm just under Parasets. So that's, you can go to Parasets and then click on PS15, and then you can see the total supply here.
Yeah,
Which,
right.
can you rank these? Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so if
Yes.
you rank them from the top, so the longer supply synchronicity all the way through, you'll notice that the total supply ones have got the lowest released on the market. So, there's only like 79 Aurora Fungis and 56 graphene batteries and 77. So when there's going to be 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 of those cards. But then if you have a look at the floor pricing compared to the lower run cards, I mean, you can see an Archivist Pride that's got a 30,000 supply at
Let's see here.
at 2.5 ETH compared to the Gaffer's Peace Pipe, which is 0.92 ETH, and we know there's only 500 of those.
Yeah. So these, as we're talking through these names, the names are going to be on your left in this chart, and then you've got the total supply here, and then what Ted was referring to here is you can see the released supply. So like, again, there's a number of cards here which I think what we commonly call that like a choke point within the set. So, there's only 86 that have been released of Synchronicity, which is an incredibly beautiful card, but it's also a card with a huge supply. And if those cards get released, I think we all expect the price to drop dramatically, just because there will be a lot of selling pressure on the secondary market. But right now, some of these cards are just, they're still very rare, even though the total supply is much larger. So it's just something to be aware of, because each Paraset, has rarer cards and of course less rare cards like Synchronicity. But then again, the supply here throws you off. So
Correct. But if you look through the other Parasets in that same run, like in the first editions, you'll see that the supply is actually more it's circulating for the vast majority of it.
Yeah.
And the pricing to supply definitely starts to balance out. So I do want to let people know, if they're looking at those assets, like take that, they're likely to be released in this next pack drop, and there's going to be 6 pack drops before the game actually goes live. So there'll be 4 more total, including this next one that's coming up. And a lot of those cards will be part of those sets, right? So I would just be mindful to those that are taking the time, and they're going to be a lovely set to have, and they may be worth the money if you can do the value to how much prime you'll get if you are a Paraset owner. But just a caution there to those going through. But the supply process has been really good. So they've released a lot of these rarer cards early, right? And I think that's a great mechanic, because that's rewarding those that have been part of the ecosystem early, right? They've got the opportunity to get those cards at a pack drop, right? In a pack, paying the lowest possible cost basis to be part of that. So as the pack drops go on, you'll find that the rarity of the cards will go away, and they'll start to become more standard. But I think then we'll start to see more price premium on those scarcer assets as well. So the differences between all of the pack drops, though, have been more around kind of the assets that they want you to kind of learn with the most. So we've got in the PS15, I find that they're just it feels to me very much like it was like the original foundation layer of the original assets that they had.
Yeah.
There was a number of large supply and a number of very low supply. The second and third pack drops seem to have a little bit more of a theme around what they involved. We saw in the first pack drop that they were. It was very much around. It was very much around the cards in that middle subsection. So rarities were between only 400 to 3,000. Like there was nothing like that had an oversupply than that. I think 3,000 was the highest supply you could get. So they felt very concentrated to being maybe towards the higher end of usage, right?
Yeah.
And then your PD2 started to involve what they call the paragons. So we started to understand what a paragon was in their terms. So a paragon is similar to like a god in Gods Unchained. It's like your lead card in your deck that kind of has a say in the type of play that you then present within the cards of your deck. And it was that backdrop too, we started to really learn a lot different in regards to the parallels that are there versus what a universal card is. And I think as we go along, we're starting to see a lot more universal cards. So I feel like these decks are going to be very much tailored to be able to be universal heavy and allow everyone to kind of have access to a lot of the same cards that probably have the same have a lot of say in regards to how the play goes on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So few details there to just highlight once more. So I mean, if you go back to like the story behind Parallel, this idea like you're in a dystopian sort of future. There's different human civilizations that are now like strewn across the our solar system or galaxy, whatever. I'm not sure how far it will go, but that's where the names like Earthen and Markolian and Oginkor and Qatari and the Shroud come from. And then there's also so that sort of categorizes your cards by parallel. But then there's also a universal sort of grouping of those cards as well. And you can sort of see like that to me is like the most distinct theme when you start to look through those cards. Like you can see an Earthen, like it looks like, I don't know, even though it's supposed to be in the future, it kind of looks like a primitive sort of civilization on Earth, versus Markolian is like very battle centric. I mean, lots of humongous weapons. I think Markolian is supposed to be on Mars.
Yeah, they're like the like God of War type, so very much in that vein. And then you got Oginkor, which don't even live on a planet. They live on like ships that are out mining asteroids, and they have technological advancements where they're able to continue to upgrade things. The Qatari are the interesting one to me, where they kind of have this ongoing memory. They've been able to evolve very quickly. So one of their core strengths is the ability to have this, to remember all their previous lives. So they continue to have the memory of their previous lives, which allows them to evolve very quickly, which is why they have the brain capacity and the skills that they have.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't dug into that as much lately.
And so that one, that to me is a very interesting one. And the thing that I do like is that the stories really kind of sort of go with like the type of player you'll be as well. So Markolian is like God of War, right? So it's going to be a very attacking kind of deck. It's going to be guys that are like full out attack, right? And I want to just, I want to blast you right now. Whereas, the Earthens themselves, like from the storyline, they're going to be defensive in general. They're there to defend it in the first place, right? So you're going to find they're going to have very defensive type cards, or you'll have a very defensive type of deck mindset when you're coming to playing your strategy. The Shroud are interesting because they're kind of like a subset, right? They're kind of like in touch with like, space and time, and, can demolecularize and, do all these really cool things. And I haven't probably spent as much time on what the Shroud do. There are definitely some Chads in Paragons that know their stuff on the Shroud. And then so we got Oginkor, Qatari, Shroud, Earthen, and then the last one being the Markolian. So the universal. So someone's telling me that the universal aren't just cards. They're still like the universal, like a group that are they've got no allegiance to, and they're more just paid mercenaries. Basically, that's kind of like the way they work. and to, you know, that's kind of like sort of at the core of what we kind of are in Paragons, is we're kind of like the unbiased, you know, I guess war dogs, where we would sell assets to anyone who's wanting them.
Yeah. No. One thing, Ted, I don't know if you can see on screen. I failed to pull up OpenSea because it's nice. You can quickly filter the cards by parallel there, but I'm actually just going to go quickly through these again because I think the way you described it, it's just, you know, you can read all about it at parallel.life, but quick TLDR is just look at the cards. I mean, again, it tells you a story here, and you know, here's Markolian, like, you know, again, this is the more like warlike parallel, and you've got let's go to Ogun Core. Oops, here we go. I mean, Ogun Core, like it's more of like a parallel about, you know, advanced engineers and
exactly.
You know,
they're like tinkerers. Think of them as like the master Lego builders out of the Lego movie. You know, like they can just smash stuff together. They just create new things. Like I think you did a like an AR version of a gruel at one stage, sitting in your lounge room.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's a whole nother part of the parallel saga. Is they've been working really hard to allow us to enjoy cards and assets in AR. So just keep a lookout for that. There's lots of fun you can have there with, like, you know, putting like some big looking weapon in your living room or in front of your house. And I think the community sort of just enjoys, you know, sort of rallying around that for fun. But yeah, no, we covered Qatari and Shroud are both really interesting to me. I think like anyone can easily gravitate towards like Markolian. Earthen, again, looks like a civilization that's almost like familiar. Again, it looks sort of primitive, but I mean, again, it's supposed to be based in the future. But Qatari and Shroud, just, I mean, you got to look through these yourself. I mean, they're just really,
they're
really
on the
beautiful art.
They're on the furthest ends of creativity and the imagination, right? And you know, I could just imagine some of the stories being had between the artist and the story builders, and they're just like, no, you've got that, like it needs to be more like this, and maybe going to try and find like examples of what they're looking at. You know, would have been a very interesting process to go through. And I think one of the things that, you know, you're seeing here is that some of these are actually like a moving GIF, right? Like they actually move, and it's more than just looking at it. They've created this like kind of visual video loop. And for a lot of people that don't know that, like Chad Hurley, who's one of the original YouTube founders, is, you know, one of the major investors for this. So a lot of these, I'm just being speculating, but you know, I can imagine he's had maybe a bit to do with where these the media comes from in regards to how this is presented.
Yeah, it's. I mean, as I'm not far along enough on the spectrum of like Star Wars fandom to like, you know, to really be able to like recall every detail and compare this to the likes of Star Wars. But yeah, I mean, like one of the reasons I was drawn into this is that I feel like the artwork and the creativity behind this is just very unique. But then again, like it plays to this, you know, very like sci-fi fantasy that we're very familiar with. You know, it's a genre that is both nostalgic, but then oddly, like at the same time, it's very futuristic. It feels right. I mean, look at this one too. Like these are called perfect loops. So the one I showed a few minutes ago was a collectible card back. I think that's
it's one of the card backs. So there's only one of 100 of each card back in each series. But yeah, these perfect loops are just like, so there will be a number of cards that also have like a perfect loop, which is just a rarity version. But if you look like visually, an amazing thing. I could imagine having like a full set of these over the time And you just have your perfect loops on like a digital photo frame just running on the loop itself as they loop through each other, like just looking like they're visually amazing. I mean, to be honest, I was really drawn to these perfect loops when I first saw them. I was collecting an artist by the name, I'm going to drop his name here now, called A Giant Swan, who's based here in Australia, and I own a few of his pieces, and it's very much in the vein, those perfect loops, of a lot of his art, and I think that's probably why I also really enjoyed it.
So, okay, so we covered quite a bit of detail there about the cards. To sort of wrap it up with a bow, there were the parallels we talked about. There were different events, which we called those like pack drops, which is why people will say PD3 is the next one on February 26th. Within these pack drops, you get to enjoy new cards from all the different parallels, but each of the cards that is released, which I mean, we don't know. I mean, we're members of the community, but I mean, we don't know everything that will be released on February 26th. When you look at these, there's a rarity to them, which thankfully is really easy to discern. If you look at the card, if you look at the very bottom of this, it says edition of 100. On average, I mean, cards, you see them as rare as, well, there's one of ones, which we'll talk about what a masterpiece is. But 100 is about as rare as it gets, especially amongst the cards that I think we're anticipating playing with, maybe like 100 to 250. And then, they can be as common as 50,000 editions of that card. And then what's cool about this, because we're using NFTs, is that if you are on OpenSea or if you go to the priming.io, there's all sorts of awesome tools that have been created at this point. But if you look here, you can actually see all the different wallet addresses that own it, how many each person owns. Some of these wallet addresses are labeled as users on OpenSea. Everything is transparent because it's traceable, in this case, on the Ethereum blockchain. And that'll be the last time I say blockchain in any sort of context. We'll be strictly focused on the cards. But yeah, these are some of the benefits. Like you can trade 24/7 if you want to. I mean, most of us are collecting because, we're either collecting as collectors within the community, or we want to play the game eventually, or both. I'm trying to think of anything else, Ted, that we should cover just on the way that cards are released within pack drops. Actually, let me go back to the priming here. Just quickly sort of run through. There was a few different, this takes time for anyone who's like new to this. Like you're gonna, your head's gonna like explode at first, but I promise, like it all makes sense. And if you've been into any sort of trading card game, everything is running per usual. So we started out here on the left on March 25th, 2021. That was PS15. PS15 SE included special edition. Those are kind of like your foil cards, and those cards, there are cards within the special edition parasets that don't exist within the non-special edition set, like PS15. And then you can also see there was a PS15 set of art cards. So these are really rare cards that were released. And there's this concept of an art card that I think we'll continue to see happen in future pack drops. And again, you can look at the card. It'll tell you how many editions there are, and those tend to be rarer cards. And so anyways, that brings us to where we are today. We went through PD1 in the summer in August. What is that? Oh, no, July 31st was when those cards were released. October 30th, 2021 is when PD2 dropped. So that's a whole nother set of cards. And you can even see on the priming.io, it's just really, really useful because it tells you in terms of PD2, there were 16 cards in total, but there's 42 cards in total for PD2 SE versus the art cards. There was only 8 of them. and then you can learn, again, you can dig into like how many editions there are. So I think that's everything you should really need to know about the cards. Ted, could you walk me through what do you think anyone who's new to Parallel needs to know about preparing for PD3? How do I get signed up to participate? How can I potentially how can I earn the opportunity to be able to buy card packs or even possibly earn some for free?
So they've got. So I think someone just mentioned earlier that there's like a Galaxy key faucet that they've just discussed in their AMA that they've just had. So if you own a Galaxy key, there's going to be a card that comes out that you'll be able to get access to. So it will be limited to the amount of obviously Galaxy keys that are there. So I guess you've got a 1 in like 400 and something chance to get a masterpiece, right? Because there's a masterpiece of every card.
Oh, wait. Let's talk about masterpieces a sec.
Yeah.
Of everything we covered is the one thing we didn't talk about there.
I was coming back.
A masterpiece? Yeah.
So a masterpiece is a 1-of-1 version of each card, right? So what that means is that, I mean, maybe if we put the screen back up, but basically each card has got its own supply, right? Based on its rarity. So, you've got a rarity supply, a rarity, and then the supply of. So, each card will have, let's say, like a Lancer tank, right? So a Lancer tank's got, X amount, I can't remember, like 1,500 or something like that of the first editions, and then only 700 or 900 of the special editions, and then it's only got the 1-of-1, right, of the masterpiece. So the masterpiece holder, first of all, I understand masterpieces are still a playable card, but the second thing is that the masterpiece will generate 20% of the fees earned from the secondary market sales of the subsequent cards below it. So for this one you're looking at, EMP Shockwave, for every other subsequent card that is sold in any other rarity, 20% of the fee will go to the masterpiece holder. So it's a reward generating asset that allows the holder of the asset to be tied to it, and each of them will have their own pricing over time as the ecosystem and the economy of each card kind of comes into play as to how valuable it is to interplay and so forth. So taking a bet on one, whilst I think there's still significant upside for that, there is a risk and a good segue into what we've done, which is actually creating an index or a basket of these assets, which allows us to kind of have an averaged growth return over those fees that we get access to.
Yeah. So to summarize that, then we've got what I pulled up here. Hopefully this will help visually. You've got the masterpiece. That's the 1-of-1 that earns. It actually earns a portion of the trading royalties. So anytime this card here, which is an EMP Shockwave card, and there's 10,000 of these. Anytime those cards trade, this masterpiece is earning a portion of the trading royalties. From right now, it's the likes of like OpenSea or LooksRare, wherever people want to trade parallel cards. But then sometimes there's other, special edition cards. We've got 100 editions of this EMP Shockwave collectible card back. We've got the Perfect Loop here. Those are normally abbreviated PL. There's only 1,000 of those versus the 10,000 of the universal plain card here. Mm-hmm. And then there's even a special edition. So normally when PD3 drops, there will be a card like this, depending on what parallel it is and how common or rare it is. But then there's normally there should be an accompanying card that's called an SC card or special edition. And normally it is rarer, more rare than the non-special edition card. So, I mean, end of day, like I mean, this is all at this point. We're sort of covering everything you need to know about the collectability of these, but I think what's more exciting, of course, is to learn all the functionalities that are going to go along with these cards and how you can build your own deck to be able to play the game. Ted, anything else actually to share in terms of like what I know much less than you do in terms of like how you can expect to build a deck or like what anyone's speculating around in terms of the functionality of these cards. Yeah, anything there you'd want to share?
Do not come to me for gameplay. I will be, we've got a pro channel in Paragons, right? And we've kind of memed everyone into doing the exclamation point pro. I think I'm the only one that's written that they're going to be a noob. Look, I think one of the key things to decks is there is actually a bunch of stuff out there that people have actually taken notes from a bunch of podcasts that have been out on Life in Parallel and what the guys at Young Capital have put out in regards to gameplay, as well as Dior as well, who has done a lot of work in that parallel Discord. So what I might do is at the end I can share some links on Twitter, and people will be able to go through. So there's definitely some stuff that people have recorded in regards to each card and what the function is that they've already quoted. There was a really good tweet thread out not long ago in regard to the someone's opinion on all of on the assets themselves. And then there's been a couple of older mediums around about acquiring cards, what a paraset is, how to make a paraset. And some of the other kind of nuances that you're going to want to know once you dive right in.
Awesome. Okay, before we talk about Paragons for a moment, and we probably will end here really, really soon. So if you are new to Parallel, I would highly recommend go to parallel.life, and then you're just click on the obvious here. Click on sign up. You can, of course, read about the different parallels. You can check out all the cards. You can go exploring. If you click buy cards, I think that takes you to OpenSea, where there's a lot of cards available for sale on the secondary market. But this is where you want to start. Sign up because you need an account. And by signing up and having that account ready, it allows you to eventually participate in a pack drop. And then there's going to be more specific instructions coming from the Parallel core team. So you're going to want to follow them on Twitter, which I'm trying to remember. Their Twitter account is just at Parallel NFT.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think anything else that they should be prepared for. Just forewarning, so you're normally competing on the day of a pack drop to just be able to buy the card. And you, if this works the same way as last time, you end up showing up here at parallel.life, waiting for an announcement through Twitter or Discord, but also waiting for like an estimated time to arrive. And then there normally is an option there then to, which I think will be under Echelon Cash there and on the far top right. And that's where there was a CAPTCHA bot in the past. Supposedly there's no CAPTCHA bot this time. So, it's going to be a game of clicking and then you have a choice of reserving. There are normally 3 different types of packs. The more expensive of the packs, ensures that you tend to get rare cards, but it costs more money. The cheapest pack is normally cheaper because you have a lower probability of getting a rare, more expensive card or projected more expensive card. And that's really it. That's what you kind of have to do to prepare, but just don't be.
There will be a lot more packs for this drop as well, just so.
Oh, that's good.
So this one does have a lot more than the last one in it. But yeah, the good thing is you do not need to have ETH in that wallet at the time of reservation. So you just need to get through the process and just do the reservation. They'll open it up so that you can come and pay that later, and it avoids that kind of high kind of gas war process that we've seen with other mints.
Yeah. And so we don't know for sure because we're not a part of the core Parallel team, but we're pretty certain as members of the community that things will remain the same. You don't have to do anything with an Ethereum wallet at that point. Although I would still highly recommend, if you haven't set up an Ethereum wallet before, like MetaMask, get to work on that. And also, if you check out my YouTube at DeFiDad.com, there's a video I did before Pack Drop 2 last time, and sort of allude to some of the details there in terms of getting started with MetaMask. Okay, I think we've covered just about everything we wanted to in terms of, you know, what you need to start to catch up on Parallel, what you need to prepare for Pack Drop 3. Is there anything else there, Ted, you think we should cover? Otherwise, I'd like to talk a few minutes about Paragons and what.
No, I think we've probably covered everything that you need to know from a high level in regards to like getting access to a Pack Drop, the dates that they're coming out, where to go. I'll add those links for anyone that wants to go deeper down the rabbit hole. That's on information that's available now with Parallel. But yeah, definitely I'm not affiliated with Parallel. I'm not part of Parallel. Just a fanboy like all the other
exactly. Yeah. Best thing you can do is you go to parallel.life, join the Discord, hop in there. It's a lot of wonderful, helpful people in there that can answer your questions. Okay, so tell us more about like what was the founding of Paragons DAO? Where did that start? Why did you co-found Paragons not a few months ago? I feel like it's been building for maybe like 3-4 months, but
so
anyways, what was the purpose behind it, and what are we working on?
So like we got our start just because there was a few friends arguing over some masterpieces in a chat when they first dropped in, when we were kind of fishing for them after the Pack Drop. The Pack Drop 1 in August, end of July, if I remember correctly. And Paragons, or the premise of what we wanted to do, was kind of born about a week after that Pack Drop, when we'd already we had 3 masterpieces together and some other assets in a multi-sig between 3 internet friends, and we started talking to some other like-minded people that had masterpieces. And yeah, you've got the kind of the founding community up here, and if you go to the Meet the Team kind of page, it evolved into these people, right? And everyone here, as you can see, in some way they donated, they put in a masterpiece, right, to be part of the founding, and for the reasons I discussed before, that one of one scarcity plus the rewards mechanism, the long tail value that this will have as the game continues to grow, was a strong cornerstone asset for what we wanted to have in the multi-sig. Yeah. So because that really does tie into the long game. But the other thing that we wanted to do is go, well, we've got the ability to use so there's fractional out there and so forth, where people are fractionalizing NFTs, where people might not have the ability to own it themselves, but want to own a piece of it, right? And want to feel that ownership. Well, we wanted to do the same thing with these masterpieces, but not just have a owning of something that's intrinsic, but also own something that generates returns. Yeah. So at our core, we're supportive of the community in a way that we're trying to give tokenized access to the benefits that these assets bring. Yeah. And by having it as a one of one in one wallet is one way. But by having them in a multi-sig and having people hold their weight of voting and then get their weight of reward from that, to me is the ultimate way, because we can build a community around that of like-minded people. So it started with a community of very small, with masterpieces in our wallet, and as you're kind of looking through our wallet at the moment, this is our haul, as to say, and then that quickly grew into people that wanted to have access to that, which were our initials, founding community members, which were you helped be a part of. And once we had grown out that core community, and were able to kind of hand over the voting rights to everyone that had participated and became an owner of these, we were able to then involve the greater community by going, bring it to the public and letting it out into the world as a token to get tokenized ownership. So as we continue to grow, the ethos around what we're doing is not about hoarding these, but about giving access to the benefits that they hold, right, as a community, and letting everyone participate in that and have a voting right as to what we do with those. Right now, we're in a growth phase. We've only been out for a couple of weeks. We had our initial bonding event I think it was nearly 14 days ago, and we do have another one planned coming out soon. So there'll be more on that over the next 24 hours, and maybe I'll be able to give some hints around what we're looking at the moment. But the initial bonding event was to grow our treasury with the playable assets, right? The playable cards. The cards are going to be highly traded, right, between users, and be needed to grow parasets. So if someone can't grow a paraset, right, if someone can't get a prime key, if someone hasn't got the ability to own a masterpiece, to own a catalyst trust, to own any of those things that are in our treasury, owning PDT is exposure to that ownership, where you may not get the 100% rights, but you get the benefits that go with it.
Yeah. So some of the detail I think I've failed to call out here as we're like walking through the cards is, so some of the more like important assets to jump-starting the in-game mechanics of Parallel are, well, one of them is a prime key. So there's only, Ted, can you remind me, there's 1,500?
There's 1,500 with like 1,300 odd or in circulation. So there's only another 100 odd in packs to go. So they're mostly circulated. I believe that the rest of them are in this next pack drop.
So prime keys right now hold like a bit of voting power. I mean, it's basically one prime key to vote on. I would call them like an informal proposal. There's not like an actual DAO that's operating just yet, but prime keys were a way of like recognizing early adopters, and those prime keys. This was recently found out because there is this thing called the Prime Proposal, which describes all the proposed in-game tokenomics, and that Prime Proposal outlined that 11% of the future Prime token supply will be vested to those who stake Prime keys. So obviously, there's a lot of there's like a vesting, bootstrapping sort of phase here, trying to ensure that those that have been like longtime supporters remain longtime supporters. And so anyways, prime keys, I mean, I don't know what the price is today, but I remember when they were like, barely 1 ETH to now they're up to like 25, 26 ETH, which is, based on the USD price of Prime, that could be as like 75, 80,000 US dollars. These masterpieces, some of them have sold for as little as 60, 70 ETH. Some of them have sold for several hundred ETH. So when Ted says like the idea here is that we're holding these very important assets that are key to the future gameplay and the support of the greater Parallel community. And the goal here has been to accumulate these assets so that we can act in the best interest of Parallel. So this is, I think of it kind of like we're almost like a sub DAO. Again, no, not officially affiliated, but clearly close with Parallel. Since we all hold the assets, we all intend to play the game. We're all collectors, and then there is some spillover of folks that are on the core team, right? Or at least investors.
Well, yeah. Correct. So there is some spillover in regards to that. So I think the two key ones that are already known is that we have Young Capital and Paradigm, who are the two lead key investors in the Parallel NFT equity round that was done at a $500 million valuation mid last year. So they're two of our lead founders and investors in Paragons. So there is a nice alignment But the one thing that I will say for anyone is that they are held to a very strict NDA agreement, non-disclosure in regards to what happens with us, what happens in parallel, and then what is with us. So for the vast majority of the time, except since the Prime proposal, the Yunt Capital guys, and especially Paradigm, have been kind of external to us, just as a founder and as a capital investor for now. But now that the Prime proposal and a lot of the mechanics will be known, they'll start to have a little bit more of an impact with us as well moving forward. Especially Yunt Capital, they're heavily aligned to what we're doing at Paragons as well.
Yeah, which has been great too, because it comes from a place of just being ethical and not disclosing any sort of inside information that should be confidential to the core team. So, gosh, I think that just about covers it. I mean, there's all sorts of cool ideas we have in mind at Paragons. We're always on the lookout. I mean, many of us we're born out of or continue to be a part of the greater DeFi community. So I know all of us are hunting for how to enable a borrowing lending market or borrowing lending liquidity for parallel cards. We're all very excited for the ability to rent parallel assets, because that opens up the door for you to be able to sponsor players by allowing them to play with assets that we hold as Paragons. But also it allows us to potentially even earn passive income through the rental of those rare assets. The Galaxy Key, I want to say, did the Galaxy Key in the Prime proposal actually outline that it increases your ability to earn Prime if you're holding that? Or at least that's an example of how an asset could be helpful to you in the future.
I believe they will have some sort of Prime generation as well, but their key role is that they're part of so for now, you'll have a Galaxy fossil, right? So there'll be a card that's available to Galaxy Key holders to the amount of Galaxy Keys that you have, right? And that card will be limited to that amount of supply. So the Galaxy Key was originally given out to the first Paraset holders as an airdrop. And then moving forward, you get that. So there's only 414 of those, right? So the benefit for holding a Galaxy Key right now is that every Galaxy Key drop, if you are one, you got a 1 in 414 chance of getting it as a masterpiece.
Wow.
Which is a life-changing amount of ETH or US dollars if you can sell it. They are a liquid, I will say that. Owning 21 of them, we know. So there is a risk in holding them as well. I would agree, but the long-term vision that we have for those is huge. But you're right in saying the Prime Key holders are going to be the first governance voters in the space. They've got an emissary board that'll be come to a vote very soon after this pack drop 3. Prime Key holders will be able to vote on nominees for that. And that emissary service will basically allow for proposals to take place, and anything that doesn't meet quorum or meet the policy for passing or failing will then be given to the emissary for a final decision. So it allows them to start to decentralize out using the Prime Key holders as the initial voting, and then that Prime is then dispersed once the emissaries give it the go-ahead for Prime to be basically into the wild. So a lot of people think that it's going to be parallel. It's not. The emissaries will have the say as to when Prime launches.
That's it, yeah. And that's hopefully there's more detail there. We've covered a lot here today, but I'll try to hopefully cover more here, and I'm hoping there's a future episode of Prime Talks, that this isn't the last one. One last thing I wanted to show is I hopped over to the priming.io. This was created by a talented community member. If you go and click under collectors, we as Paragons are number one according to, I guess, this wallet holding all the different assets we have, and so you can start to learn about some of these rare assets we're holding, like Prime Keys, Catalyst drives, and all the different masterpieces that Ted alluded to, and also playing cards. We've another way, I guess, you alluded to this earlier or mentioned it. we're thinking of ways that we can support parallel gameplay in the future. One of those ways has been at this point to collect, rare assets and cards. And so we had what was a card bonding event where anyone was able to basically, I thought the most common reason someone would have participated is, it's very possible that someone ends up with duplicates of a card. Maybe they created or they collected a paraset and they just don't really care to continue to hold on to that card. We've got these bonding events, which are great because you can basically stake, deposit the card, and in exchange, you get paid in our token PDT. So that's how a card bonding event works. And I think we're going to do more of those. Obviously, we're going to be looking to sponsor players. So, if you have been a competitive trading card game player, please hop into our Discord. You don't need to own an NFT or a token to be in the Discord and start to engage with the community. And then, most importantly, check out parallel.life. Make sure you hop in the Parallel Discord. The mothership there just has so many different resources to learn from. And that's, all of us love to hop in there because you just learn so much from others about what all of us think the game is going to turn out to be, ideas and feedback that you can give to the team directly. The team is very responsive at Parallel, which is, I think, one of the most exciting parts about being within the community is they really listen intently to feedback. And yeah, I think that just about covers it. Ted, is there anything else you wanted to share here? I think we've talked enough. I think it's time to let people go.
Yeah. So I just want to let people know that Paragons loves the cards. That's what we do. We like the cards. If you like the cards, come and join us. You don't need to own PDT. Owning PDT just gives you exposure to the cards we like. And we're nothing without that parallel ecosystem, right, at this stage, because, that's what we're here supporting. So parallel.life for everything that's parallel. That is not what we are. We aren't the game. We aren't the gameplay. What we are is we're the supporters of the gamers, right, from a social and economic point of view. Now, there's a lot of nuance to what I just said, but it'll start to make sense over the next few months as we start releasing the products that we have from a smart contract and DeFi point of view, but also our community vision with the guys that have been working on that. A little bit of alpha for everyone. For those that don't know, the two people building our community at the moment for this play to earn space built the biggest online poker community in the world.
And you're referring to, I know Dior, but who's the other person?
So Mr. Kavak and obviously obvious are our. Without doxing them too much, that is our previous talent. Wow. So is bankrolling and backing and building a community of online poker players. I think a 9 million large community. So it's a I think we've got the right mix here to help support that ecosystem. And if you want to know more about what we're doing, just come to the Paragons DAO Discord, and you'll pretty much find everything that you need.
Absolutely. And last reminder to everyone, everything we said here is not investment advice. This is purely for informational purposes only. Please do not invest your money into parallel assets and have any sort of expectation of a return based on anything that we talked about here. But other than that, yeah, just there's the Twitter handles to follow there for Parallel, the mothership at Parallel NFT. And then if you're interested in Paragons DAO, follow us at Paragons DAO on Twitter. And you can check out Paragons DAO at paragonsdao.com, and of course Parallel at parallel.life. And please reach out if you enjoyed this. I would love to know what sorts of topics we should cover in the future, and hoping maybe we can have some more guests on for whatever this is. But I literally came up with the name 2 minutes before this, so you're Here it is, Prime Talks, first episode of Prime Talks. Ted, thanks so much, man, for being able to join me. I'm going to end the broadcast. We'll be in a green room in a sec, but anything else you want to share before we go?
No, look, just get yourself ready for Pack Drop 3, end of the month. For most people, it's been a great event for them personally, and a great entrance into crypto. So, yeah, absolutely. Just get everything you need to know before Pack Drop 3 end of February.
Awesome. I'm going to put that up here. So that's Pack Drop 3 on February 26th. So yeah, thanks everyone. We'll see you soon. And also too, if you're building the next great NFT or DeFi or Web3 project, please consider reaching out to me and my teammates at fourthrevolution.capital. We'd love to partner with you. Other than that, you can subscribe at DeFiDad.com if you enjoyed this. And thanks for joining us. Everyone, have a great day. Bye.